All right, guys, welcome to the Digital Barbell Podcast. This is episode number 51. Thank you all for being here. We're a week delayed on this episode, but here we are, for better or for worse. This week's sponsor is none other than Mucinex.
Of course.
We've both been dealing with having a cold, sinus infection, something like that, but we're feeling a lot better, and Mucinex was definitely there for us when we needed it. But yeah, it's good to be back. And it's good to be back training and stuff too. That kind of spurred on one of the things we want to talk about this week in this episode of You Go, I Go. We pulled out a lot of topics, both from things that we're going through with our clients and just kind of things that are top of mind right now, and some questions that people submitted also. So that's what we got in store for this episode.
Cool.
So forgive any coughing or sneezing or clearing of throats or whatever. We'll try to keep it to a minimum, but no promises.
Yeah, exactly.
See, there's one.
Sorry. So I was thinking about something today.
Uh-oh.
I don't know if this is like my topic or anything, like You Go, I Go, but this is just something I was thinking about just now as I was getting ready to do this podcast. I was putting in my contacts, and I started thinking about like how sometimes we're willing to like put in some effort to, like learn how to do something new or do something hard, and then sometimes we're just not. And I don't know the psychology behind why it is, but I just thought this was like a cool like idea or metaphor or something. But anyway, so I was putting in my contacts, and I was remembering back to like I first started wearing contacts like after college. Like I was working at Rice when I started. I don't know if I needed glasses my whole life and I just couldn't see, or why I got glasses and contacts so late in life. But anyway, I was already working for Rice when I started wearing contacts. So I didn't want to have to wear glasses all the time. So I was like, let's go down that contact road. And I remember going to the optometrist, and man, it was like an hour appointment to just learn how to put one pair of contacts. And it was a struggle. I was really bad at it. I didn't like touching my eye. And I couldn't do it. I mean, it took me, I'm thinking like 30, 45 minutes to put a pair of contacts in. It was a struggle bus. So what I would do is I would go to work. We lived close enough to Rice to where I could come home for lunch. I would go to work in my contacts, and I would come home for lunch, and I would spend my whole lunch break putting in a pair of contacts, like, 30 minutes in the bathroom.
So you wear your glasses in the morning?
Wear my glasses to Rice, come home for lunch. We lived in an apartment. Put my contacts in during my lunch break. Cram something to eat real quick and go back to work.
Goodness.
And I did this for a long time. And I was willing at that time to put in the work it took to learn how to put these contacts in. But I knew it was not going to happen in the morning at that time. I guess I wasn't willing to get up early enough to spend that extra 30, 45 minutes put in the contacts.
My gosh.
So I would come home for lunch every day and put my contacts in. And I remember the optometrist was like, start with these colored contacts because you can actually see them in your eyes. So first I was wearing these blue or tint eye contacts or whatever, and it did help. I was able to see them, but I was still very scared of it. Long time of just going through this process. And then as I got better at it, I mean, I remember I would still I would leave the house and I'd have backup contacts, cases, solutions. I was this utility pack of contact supplies or whatever.
It's like you with your snacks now.
Yes, and this is what I'm kind of leaning into is this was a process for me to learn how to put in my contacts, but I was willing to go through this hard work. And now, I mean, I can walk in the bathroom in seconds, pop them in, pop them out, and then I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
And it's this skill I've learned for life. So, if eating right is not something that's an instinct to you, it's a skill that you need to work on. If training regularly is not a skill that you have or something you've done regularly, it's something that you need to work on, and it's not going to be easy. It just made me think about taking the time now to get yourself better at these things. I had to carve out 30 minutes of my day at my lunch break to put in my contacts and look it bettered me today because I can do it in a second.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Anyway.
Makes sense. I like that example.
Okay.
I'm glad that you got better at it too, because now that we eat lunch together, I don't have time to wait for that.
Yeah. BRB, 30 minutes.
Yeah, I'll eat without you. All right, well, I'll get into the first official topic of the day. This is something I pulled out of experience with a client this week, a nutrition client, but it's definitely something I've been through with several nutrition clients in the past. So this is this is applicable whether you're doing nutrition coaching with somebody or you're just living your regular life. And What we're talking about is going from a period of a calorie deficit into a calorie surplus. So what this might look like in somebody's life is they're, quote, dieting down for an occasion, a high school reunion, a cruise, the summer, whatever. Usually it's like an actual occasion. Like, I want to get down to a certain level of leanness for this occasion, and I'm going to do it by restricting my calories. And then once I reach my goal of that time, I'm going to let loose and get after it. I'm going to go from a period of being in a calorie deficit to going into an extreme calorie surplus, where calories are much more abundant than they were when we were losing fat. So what this might look like is somebody who, let's say their maintenance calories are about 2,000 calories per day. And we've had them eating about 1,500 calories per day, causing them to lose about a pound of fat per week. That's what that would work out in scientific terms, maybe not in real life, but just for this example. So we get to the cruise, whatever it is, and they go from that eating 1,500 calories per day to now eating maybe like 3,000 calories per day because they're hitting the buffet on the cruise or the all-inclusive resort or whatever. So we've gone from a period of energy restriction into a period of extreme abundance without any buffer in between. And as we think about how our bodies have evolved to cope with times of starvation, when we go straight from a period of restriction into surplus, our body sees that extra energy and it's like, oh, sweet. We've been without energy for a long time. Here's an abundance. Let's preferentially store this as body fat in case this person tries to starve us in the future. So you're primed to store a lot of body fat. So we have ways to deal with this, and this is the process that I'll take clients through so that this doesn't happen leading up to these events. And there's two main parts of it, and both involve planning and some amount of restraint, we can call it. Real life restraint. So on the real life restraint side, it's just knowing that when you get into that period where calories are going to be abundant, you can't just 100% let your foot off the gas and just unleash the hounds and go into this surplus. There is some amount of moderation that's needed to make all this work without storing a lot of body fat. But then on the planning ahead side, we can know that we have this destination time in the future. And in the weeks leading up to it, we can slowly increase calories so that we lessen the transition between, or we increase the transition time between going from a deficit to a potential surplus. So what this would look like is 2 to 3 weeks before we know there might be an abundance of calories, we take incremental steps up closer to the person's maintenance calories. And that just sends the hormonal signal to the body like, okay, we are coming out of this period of restriction, and we do it in a gradual way that increases their chances of their body seeing that extra energy and burning it off through non-conscious activity, through non-exercise activity, thermogenesis. And that allows you to kind of ramp your calories up without storing as body fat. And then through the second part of the strategy of not going into a crazy surplus, we minimize our chances of storing fat. Because if you look at it from a numbers perspective, if somebody were to go from that 1,500 calorie per day, which was a deficit for them, straight to 2,000 calories, now they're in such a large surplus of like, about 1,000 calorie surplus per day, that if it's a week-long vacation and they're eating 1,000 calories extra per day, they could come back with 2 extra pounds of fat on them that might take 4, 6, 8 weeks to lose. So this is just a process that'll help guide people through. And you can use this yourself, even if you're not working with a coach, knowing that you have a period of increased calories coming up. So that's what I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm going to talk more because I have more voice than you today. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right,
let's go through this next one, though. I think I can do this one.
Which one's next?
Let's talk about training while you're under the weather.
All right.
It's very topical.
It
is, it's just weird right now. I mean, my family was visiting. Like, no one was evidently sick when they were here, but like, my brother, sister-in-law, the baby, we're sick. Like my mom, her parents, we have tons of clients, people all over the country. It's just weird. I'm like, I think, it's like maybe we were all apart for so long and we're getting together and everybody's kind of spreading a cold. I don't know. Anyway.
Just sneezing all over each other.
That's the thing, is no one was sneezing or coughing or showing any signs. Anyway.
It happens, though.
It's a mystery. But We do have a lot of clients. What?
I was just going to give a disclaimer in all that we're about to say that we're not doctors.
Right.
We don't pretend to be on the internet.
Yes.
This is just our practical advice from our
Right.
own experience and from working with other people.
Exactly.
If you have a serious medical condition, please consult your local doctor, psychologist,
This is like
accountant.
we're talking about
lawyer.
training when you're under the weather, like you have a cold,
Right.
Something like that, And so, first and foremost, it is important to give your body rest and let your body like use its resources to help you recover and not just like beat yourself down while you're sick.
Right.
So, I would say like, we got started feeling like this over the Memorial Day weekend. I did Murph. And then
That's a good example of what not to do.
and then didn't work out, I would say, until like
I think it was
Thursday or Friday. Yeah, Thursday or
Right.
Friday of that week, because we were really, feeling bad. We were congested, we were coughing a lot, and I knew, like, instead of working out, we didn't feel up to it, and then we needed to let our body recover. So once you've kind of gone through that recovery process and you have some energy back, you're not going to have full injury, but you have some energy back and you're feeling up to it. I like to think about it as like training with an injury, like, you can't use a body part when you have an injury, but you can still train. And we recommend that you train.
Yep.
Same thing here. Like when you feel up to it, it's important to get back to training, both for like your physical and your mental game.
Yeah.
So what I like to suggest is like to do like the strength training, the bodybuilding side, and not the cardio whenever you're feeling congested and things like that. Because, once you get your heart rate up, it's hard to breathe. And like you start to like, oh, I don't like this, this feeling. So that's what we've been doing, is focusing on the strength and the bodybuilding. And if there is like a conditioning element, we'll run through it slowly with some more rest than we normally would.
Yeah.
Until we're feeling up to 100% again.
You mentioned recovery, and like one of the reasons that we use deloads with our clients is to increase recovery. So when I think about being sick, I adjust my training more to like deload levels, both in the amount of weight I'm lifting and
Yes.
the total volume, to basically do the exact same thing as a deload to facilitate more recovery during that time.
Yeah. So when we got back into the gym, we did less sets.
Well, we started off with just doing
Lighter weights.
a band workout here in the house.
Yes,
That was the
that's
very
true.
first thing we did.
And that gave with that, I was like, I was really in the headspace of like, I can't imagine working out again. Like,
Will I ever lift a weight again?
like you just arms. I'm like, oh, I feel so weak. And then we did the band workout, and I was like, okay, that was pretty good. Like I feel like I could do something tomorrow. So then the next day, like we went into the gym,
Yeah.
and I would look at my notes and I'd be like, okay, I used this weight last time. I'm gonna back it down a little bit and use this weight.
Yeah.
Just go through the sets, but reduce the weight.
One thing I'll say is we take for granted that we train here at our house,
Yes.
but we have a lot of clients that train in commercial gyms. So all this goes without saying that if you're potentially contagious, you have any kind of fever, you have productive cough, whatever, err on the side of staying home and resting more instead of going and get other
and
people
doing
sick.
things like the band workouts is a good thing to do at home. Some body weight stuff if you're wanting to like get moving, but you can't get into a gym yet.
Right. And you touched on this too, saying the mental side, but a huge part of doing something instead of nothing is keeping the habit alive. How many times have you seen somebody get sick, miss a week, and then never restart? It happens because we get out of the habit.
We
So
get out of habit, yeah.
just doing something and reminding yourself how good you feel after you do it is better than doing
Yeah, and
nothing.
that's that mental piece too. Is just like it gives your body these endorphins, and you're just like, oh, okay, I feel good. Let's keep this rolling.
Yep.
All right.
All right, enough said on that. Okay, I pulled this from a conversation I was having with a Built member who was asking if his muscles would always continue to get bigger as he trained. So the short answer is yes. A stronger muscle will always be a bigger muscle. They call it muscle cross-sectional size. If you were to slice a muscle in half, you would measure how much larger it is. So the stronger a muscle gets, the bigger it is going to get. But I sent out an email about this last week, and I'll kind of recap what actually makes muscle grow in the first place, and then we'll get into how we bias our training around that. So there's three main components of what causes a muscle to grow, period. There's number one, and it's the most important. It's called mechanical tension. It's the act of you doing resistance training, lifting a weight, working against a band, working against a cable machine, something like that. So that's number one. Number two is causing metabolic stress. Like imagine yourself doing a set of curls, and as it starts to get hard, you feel the muscle increasing in tension. It starts to burn. You're feeling a physical change in the muscle. Well, there's a lot of things happening there, but one thing that's happening is like a hormonal response. You're releasing the hormones that cause muscle growth. You're changing things at a cellular level that causes muscle growth. And then number 3 is causing muscle damage. Like your muscles are made up of fibers, and when you lift weights at a certain intensity, you break down those fibers. And then when you recover by eating and sleeping, you cause those fibers to be repaired. And when they repair, they grow in size. That's what increases the muscle cross-sectional size, is the repair of the muscle damage. So those 3 things are what make muscles grow. And since we know that, we bias our clients' trainings and our training programs kind of knowing what people want and need, balancing those things. We don't have a lot of clients whose goal is to outgrow their pants because their quads get so big they can no longer buy pants at the regular store. But we have a lot of clients, and we know a lot of people want certain parts of their body to look more muscular, lean, athletic. And I'm talking about, your arms, your legs, your shoulder, your chest in men, your abs, your back.
Or they have quite a bit of muscle in one place and they want to grow it in the other place.
Right. And so we know that people already have kind of this bias of what they want. So we design training programs with those 3 components, knowing that that's the goal. So when we think about training exercises like squats and deadlifts, that we know that the primary thing people need in that is to grow their strength. So we work in higher weights, closer to 80 to 90% of their 1 rep max, but in smaller volumes, and that builds strength without causing as much, number 1, metabolic stress, and number 2, muscle damage. So it causes less muscle growth in the long run because we've affected those 2 variables. But it still causes strength adaptations because working in those higher weights comparative to your 1 rep max, it just causes strength adaptations. So that's how we bias training. It's like we would never tell a client to do, a set of 225 back squats to failure. Like we're not trying to train the legs in that way. It would cause too much metabolic stress. It would cause too much muscle damage. You wouldn't be able to walk for a week. So that's why we design training like that.
Yeah, we want them coming back day after day.
Yeah, I can't train for the next month because I did a set of 30 back squats at 225. But then knowing those 3 variables, we bias the rest of the training to cause more metabolic stress and muscle damage in the muscles that we do want to see more strength and growth in. That's talking about the biceps, the triceps, the shoulders, the back, those kinds of things. So we cause more muscle growth in certain muscle groups and cause more strength gains in other muscle groups. But yes, the short answer to the question is yes, all your muscles will continue to get bigger as you train, but you have a lot of control over that with the way that your training is designed.
I would say that I also bias a lot of the finishers toward the glutes because I know just as seeing people move, that's one area where people can add some strength.
Yeah.
And that's not
and
only
size. There's
and
a lot
size.
of pancake butts out there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, is like, it's beneficial to have strength in your glutes, but also size. People, hopefully people want the size because they're going to get it.
Right. I've ripped a couple pairs of jeans. I'm not going to lie.
You did. He used to have a pretty high truck.
Yeah.
And
I think I ripped 3 pairs in one summer, stepping up into my truck. It was an expensive summer.
That was funny.
I just had to start buying the ones that had a little bit of spandex in there, to be honest with you.
Skinny jeans.
That's when I made the transition to skinny jeans. What a year that was. Never looked back.
Oh, my goodness.
I think I was the only person who worked in construction that wore skinny jeans.
Are they called skinny jeans for men? I don't know. Or just like straight leg.
I was doing something in the grocery store the other day, and they sell jeggings in the grocery store now.
What grocery store?
Brookshire Brothers. They were hanging there by the pharmacy.
Leggings?
They're called jeggings, and they come in like a little plastic bag. So maybe it's like basically like spandex that have pockets sewn on the outside.
Brookshire Brothers is now having some clothing retail establishment.
You can get fried chicken and you can get jeggings.
Oh my goodness!
At Brookshire Brothers here in Wimberley, Texas.
You smell like fried chicken when you go in that store.
Yeah, that's the only downside of that place.
There's a lot of downsides to the jeggings. Now that I'm finding out.
Okay, that's all I wanted to say about that.
Nice. Well, let's Let's talk about grocery stores then.
Okay. This is an unplanned one, but go for it. Let's riff on grocery stores.
No, this is just about like I think it was like 5 years ago. This week as when I went to CrossFit New England to do the Business of Excellence seminar there. It was back when I was already owning the gym, and he had a seminar about like running a business of excellence, just like being the best that you can be for your customers. And I mean, I got so much out of that. But it started me like down this path of like thinking about. I mean, even to this day, we talk about it all the time. Like, this is a business of excellence. Like, we used to go to a Mr. Car Wash in Idaho, and I mean, that place was a business of excellence. You drive up, they like talk to you, they wave at you, talk to you through the window. I mean, they're all about the customer service. They're all about you having a good experience when you go to Mr. Car Wash. And I mean, to this day, I still like, I will look, oh, there's a Mr. Car Wash. Like, I think like all Mr. Car Washes are like this, And just last night, we drove up and went to Trader Joe's, and I would say Trader Joe's is known for being a business of excellence for that reason. Like, you go to H-E-B or at Randall's or something like that, and like no one talks to you, they don't even look at you in the eye, and they're throwing your groceries down the conveyor belt. I mean, we went to Trader Joe's last night. This kid told us about like where this ranch he worked on, where he went to college. We were buying. They have Venus. There's a lot of flies here in the hill country. We were buying a Venus flytrap, and he's telling him and the cashier next to us are talking about the Venus flytrap and telling us these stories. I mean,
how to get the most out of your Venus flytrap experience.
It's just like and then they like super carefully bag your groceries.
Yeah,
I think I've raved on Trader Joe's before for this reason, but
they sponsored us before.
Yeah. But I would say like, when I think about them versus like your regular grocery store, that is a business of excellence. They care about they care about the customer experience.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's kind of that saying, how you do anything is how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah. Anyway, so as you go about your day and you go into these businesses, think about if they're a business of excellence or not. Do they care about your experience, or are they just like going through the motions of their day, not looking at you in the eyes and, not caring if you have a good experience in their store or not?
Yeah, it makes a difference.
It does. It
I'd
really
rather
does.
spend my money with businesses that are like that for sure.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to go to H-E-B anyway.
No more. I'm off. I've already been off H-E-B once. Now I'm off of them again.
All right, let's get back to the exercise stuff.
Oh, darn. Okay.
All right. So this is kind of related, I guess. This was a conversation with the same client, actually. He was asking if he needed to add in more ab training into his program. Like I said, he's doing Built right now. So
what was I mean, just to grow his abs, or was there like a strength?
Yeah,
he doesn't feel strong there, or
I'll get to that.
Okay,
I'll get to that.
Pardon.
I don't want to spoiler alert. Spoil it. Okay, so I think there's a common camp. I've definitely heard this on the internet. Maybe even told it to somebody one time when I believed it. That if you're training heavy squats and deadlifts, there's no reason to train your abs. Might have picked this up from our days with starting strength.
I was about to say the same thing. Yeah.
That sounds like something Mark Rippetoe would say.
You're wasting your energy if you're doing crunches.
Yeah, you just go straight from the squats to the dinner table to the gallon of milk. Okay, so like I said, the common camp was if you're training heavy squats and deadlifts, you don't need to train your abs directly. And while that's true for just overall core strength, I think that most people could benefit from adding in extra core training. Now, this particular client is doing one of our programs, so he's getting plenty of core training because we already know these principles, and we add in extra core work that you
#finishers
into the finishers. Yes, also that. So we add in extra core training, and for two main reasons. I guess it's two. I'll say it's two main reasons. Number one is that a stronger core will always be a better defense against a back injury than just about anything else, outside of using proper technique and having a coach and things like that. Having a strong core and knowing how to use it is so beneficial.
I would say even if you have a proper coach and technique.
Yeah, for sure. That's what did I say?
Aside from.
Oh, okay. You're right. And then number two is that if your goal is to be able to see your abs and you're working on fat loss to make that happen, training your abs directly, they're just like any other muscle. Causing your abs to get bigger will make them visible at higher body fat percentages. Like personally speaking, I've trained the crap out of my abs and I can still see some ab definition at like 15% body fat, whereas like 10 to 12 is a more normal range for most people.
Men.
For men, yeah, sorry. Women would be more like in the 20 to 22% range, and like really seeing them between 18 and 20%. Okay, and then secondly, I think you should add in training to your obliques in addition to your anterior core, if you're for both reasons, because training your obliques makes your back healthier, and then also, like, as you get leaner, you'll have more separation between your abs if you have stronger, larger obliques also. So that's why things like side planks and bicycles and things like that come into play. So the short answer on this one is, should you add in more ab training? If you're doing one of our programs, you don't have to. If you're a custom client of ours, you don't have to. If you're just following a strength training or bodybuilding split program, then yes, I think you should you should add in extra ab training to your weekly routine.
Yeah, so we've been watching the semifinals of CrossFit, like, you know, goes the CrossFit Open semifinals, which used to be regionals, and then the CrossFit Games. So it's been on the last few weekends, so we've been watching that, and man, you can really see a difference in the ab definition of CrossFitters who've been around for this like 5 to 10 year span versus like the newer CrossFitters. The newer CrossFitters have like defined abs, but they have a fairly flat stomach. Like, you know, their abs go straight down. The CrossFitters who've been around for 5, 7, 10 years, they're like stomach. I mean, this is not like a fat stomach. It's an ab defined stomach, but their abs like bulge out.
They're like chiclets.
Like away from them.
Yeah.
Like it's like they're standing there and they have this huge belly, but it's just abs because they've grown their abs so.
Yeah, these
so
people are
big.
doing insane amounts of volume.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying none of us want to look like that. I'm just saying, like, it's obvious that they train their abs and the size of the ab grows, and it just like continues to like push outwards. So they could probably gain quite a bit of body fat, like you said, and still look like they had like an 8-pack because their abs go so far out.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Let's say, do you want to talk about, we talked about training while sick. Let's talk about this one.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about why bar path matters so much. And what we mean by bar path is in a weightlifting exercise, what is the trajectory of the bar or dumbbell, as it moves up and down. So
why, like, what it is and why do we care so much about this? Like, why are we correcting you guys so much on the path of the weights you're lifting?
Right. So going back to our starting strength days, Mark Ripito relies a lot on the explanation of physics in weightlifting. And weightlifting is a large part, like it involves a lot of physics, because our body is really just a series of different levers. And sometimes we want to maximize the advantage of those levers to be able to move heavy loads safely. And sometimes we want to take advantage of the disadvantages of levers to challenge our muscles. But when it comes to exercises like the squat and the deadlift, where we're moving heavy loads, it's very important that we move those loads in a straight up and down bar path over the center of our balance, which is the middle of our foot when we're standing up. So that's why we're so careful to make sure people have the appropriate deadlift setup, and that they start their pull the right way and that they finish their pull the right way, so that it leads to the bar going from the center of the midfoot straight up and down without any deviation forward or backward in bar path. Because when we're lifting a heavy load and we add an extra lever into the mix, meaning the bar gets in front or behind that center of balance, now we're putting a shear force on one of the levers in our body.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that can lead to a more like instantaneous injury.
Not only deadlift pulling from the ground, the same thing would be true like if you have a weight on your shoulders and you're pressing it overhead.
Yep.
You know, you're still, when that weight is on your shoulders, it's over your midfoot. And so your goal is to press it from your shoulders straight overhead and back down without taking it out around, like, say, your face.
Right.
Same thing like a squat. You know, whether the bar is on your back or your front, the bar is going to be positioned over our midfoot. That's why there's a difference in the way, like, our chest angle is when we're doing low bar squat versus high bar squat. We're changing where the bar we move the bar down our back whenever we're in a low bar squat, so that the bar will be over our midfoot. When our chest is more vertical, we move the bar up onto our shoulders so that the bar will be over our midfoot.
Yep.
And then when we squat, our goal is to take that bar down and up the same path without deviating.
And this is one of the reasons that we get videos of our clients is to check for the bar path, because everybody has different segment lengths.
Yeah.
Like my femur is a different length than your femur. My torso is a different length than yours. And to keep the bar over mid-foot, like in a back squat, I'm going to have to be bent over at different angles than you. My feet are going to have to be slightly different stance than you. Things are going to look a little bit different in order for both of us to keep the bar up, in a straight bar path.
And that's also why we care about the angle that you send us a video. Like, if you send us a video, but it's like a straight on from the front or something like that, and we can't even see what the bar is doing. It's not a useful video for us unless we can see your feet.
Right.
We can see where the bar starts. We can see where the bar ends, no matter the lift we're doing.
Yeah. And then translating this over to a lying down exercise, like the bench press or a dumbbell bench or something like that. Now, when you're laying on your back and you're holding a weight in your hand, now your center of balance is your shoulder joint. So that's why we need to make sure that the bar is directly over your shoulder at the top of the bench press, and that is traveling in relatively a straight line. I can't get too technical in a audio only version here, because the bar path of a bench press is not exactly vertical because of the way that the shoulder joint
moves,
works.
I was about to say, like, don't say that too much, because we don't want people to start bench pressing like this.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. But at rest, the bar should be directly over your center of balance, which is at the, with the bar directly above your shoulder joint. Same thing in a dumbbell bench press. And then we use those same principles of leverage that we want to take advantage of in the heavy lifts to make our muscles challenge more in exercises like a lateral raise, things like that. So we're holding a weight out at our side, which is creating a huge, what's called moment arm, meaning it's going to be a difficult lever to operate. But at lighter weights, there's not any danger. Like if you were to load up 135 on a dumbbell and try to hold it out at your side, catastrophic things would happen. But when you're doing lateral raises with that mechanical disadvantage at 10 pounds, you're challenging the muscle without risking injury. So that's the way we use leverage in that way. So that's that on bar path.
Good.
I wanted to talk. We're getting down to the end here, which is good. My voice is starting to go. I want to talk about how to know when to go into a cut or a bulk.
Okay.
And I'm talking mainly about somebody who is just kind of starting their journey, or they're getting serious into weightlifting or dialing in their nutrition. They're following a program. They're like, well, what should I do with my nutrition? Should I cut body fat or should I try to bulk up? Here's where here's where I am now. So the general consensus for this is, well, let me define the terms first. Cutting is just a fancy way to say it's a fat loss phase. You're using a calorie deficit to lose fat. Bulking is a time focused on muscle growth via being in a calorie surplus. These two things are counterproductive. So if you wake up in the morning and you're like, I feel fat, I want to cut, and then at the end of the day you're like, I'm hungry, I want to bulk, that's not the cycle I'm talking about. You need dedicated times focused on these things. You can't try to do both of them simultaneously, let alone for sure in the same day. Been there, done that. My body needs these calories.
Oh man, what did I do?
You wake up in the morning, oh man, I'm definitely cutting today. All right, I'm talking longer term.
Yes.
And then people that you look around at, bodybuilders, whatever, that have admirable physiques, they go back and forth between these cycles multiple times in their training careers. And maybe going back and forth once per year between cutting and bulking, because that's the way you're going to get the most out of it. That's the process that they use. Okay, so before you even decide what's right to do for you, you got to kind of look at some lifestyle factors. Where are you at in your life right now? Are you under a lot of stress? Are you going to be traveling a lot? Are the holidays coming up? There's going to be abundance of food. Are you in a position where you even have control over your food right now? All these things matter. I mean,
what time of year it is. I mean, I think a lot of people don't particularly, unless they were training for certain sports, don't particularly like to bulk in the summertime because you wear less clothing and, you're exposed more, maybe.
Right. Just walking around exposed.
Fucking bathing suits.
At Berkshire Brothers, no shirt.
Just jeggings.
No jeggings, no shirt, no service. So all that matters. So be realistic with yourself. Are you in a place where you really have time to focus on either one of these or not? And then more practically speaking, what I recommend is for men who are above about 15% body fat, start with cutting. And for ladies who are above about 25% body fat, start with cutting. and cut until men reach around 10 to 12% body fat, or women until they reach about 18 to 20% body fat. Get down to those levels through a cut before you think about bulking. And here's the reason. Number one is when you're leaner, you're more insulin sensitive, which means you're going to get the most out of a bulk. You're going to be able to use the extra calories from protein and carbohydrates more efficiently to build more muscle. You're just going to get more out of it by being lean to start with. Number two, you're building up a longer runway of time and weight that you can gain because you're starting at a lower place during your bulk. Like when you start your bulk, you're at a lighter weight, you're at a lower body fat percentage. You got a longer runway to bulk before you get to the point where you're like, okay, I've had enough. It's time. You're going to get more out of it because you had more time to spend in a calorie surplus. Typically, like if a guy is at 18, 20% body fat and for whatever reason they decide to bulk and they get up to 22, 25% body fat, they're very uncomfortable both physically and mentally with the way that they look. And now they're in a place where they have a significant amount of fat to lose, which means an extended period of time or multiple cycles of cutting and bulking again before they could have the potential to get back down to where they should have gotten down to in the first place before they started their bulk. Same thing goes with women who start trying to bulk at too high of a body fat percentage. So let's say you do it right and you start your bulk at the lower body fat percentages I recommended. I would recommend men bulk until they reach about 15 to 18% body fat, and then females somewhere between 25 and 28% body fat. So you're probably listening to this thinking like, well, what the heck body fat percentage am I and how should I know? There's a lot of different ways to test. But what I tell our clients, honestly, is the best thing to do is just to go based on pictures. You don't need to go spend $200 getting an in-body scan or a bod pod or whatever else they have now, a bioimpedance thing. I don't care what your fancy $25 scale off Amazon says your body fat percentages. It doesn't matter. Go on the Google and search sample body fat percentages. You'll find a myriad of pictures. Take an average of the pictures because some are going to look different than others, and compare that to where you're at now. Take pictures of yourself in normal lighting in the first thing in the morning and kind of compare where you're at. Don't take a picture of yourself in the like you're in a hotel room and you got the door that goes out to the hallway and there's like one single light over the front in the door in your little hallway that provides this like amazing dramatic lighting. Yeah. Don't take your picture to assess yourself in that. Take it in normal lighting and see where you're at. And that's the overall recommendation for this. If anybody has any questions about that, feel free to reach out, or if you don't have an idea, if you don't really know what your body fat percentage is, you can email us a picture and we'll help you figure out where you're at. Any announcements or anything like that? I don't think I have any.
I don't think so.
All right, cool. Well, I'm glad we made this episode happen. We got a good episode coming up for you next week, so make sure you stay tuned for that. If you have time to leave us a review on wherever you're listening to this, we would greatly appreciate it. It's the only way we're going to reach tens of millions of people. So once again, we thank you guys. Have a great day.